Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Full Circle we've had in quite a while. It's time to bring back the Corsace podcast for the return of Corsace Open. We've already gone through qualifiers last weekend, and we're about to get into the first round of matches. So it's time to start discussing one of the biggest tournaments of the year. We have a few people here with me. I'm Dio, joined by Half Slashed, Sad Shiba, and this one guy for the first episode of Full Circle we've had in about a month, I think. It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit since we had one.
Yes.
It's been ages. I mean, it's a lot. It's not. It's been a little while since we've had like a super major big tournament to talk about. So, yeah, safe to say it's been a little while. We haven't really had too many times where we could possibly do it. But now that Open's here, it's open season now, isn't it?
I see what you did there.
God.
This guy thinks he's funny or something. We got ourselves a comedian in the chat.
Slick with it.
Oh man.
If you want me to be honest with you, I actually didn't think of that as a joke. I just said it. So, accidental comedian. I'll
there we
take
go.
away some of my credit, but yeah,
Well,
I'll take it.
we're going to start with a couple of precursor things for Corsace Open this year. We had some format changes, some pool format changes as well. So changes to the overall tournament and the map pool structure for the pool. So we're just going to start with the overall format changes to the tournament. Things like moving from a round of 32 to this bye system for the top 8 and round robin for seeds 9 through 24. In fact, there are fewer teams this year than ever before in Corsace Open. Top 24 were the only teams to qualify. So, Aaron, do you want to take us through a little bit of the format changes and why they're around right now?
Yeah, so it's been obviously a iterative sort of process as we were working on getting this all set up. But I think at the core, there's been this concern in tournaments where it's been the formats of tournaments overall have been very stagnant, right? Over the past several years, it's been like 4v4 teams of 8 qualifiers, round of 32 double elim bracket. And it's propagated this issue where you have a sense of sameness to a lot of tournaments, and it's just very predictable and everything's very much the same. And you come in and it's like, okay, here's the teams that are gonna go all the way to the grand finals, and we don't have to care about anything until we get there. And so I think it was last year, probably after Open ended, we just kind of brainstormed out like, what are some things we can do to make things maybe a little more interesting, have perhaps some teams play a little bit of a higher stakes match earlier on in the tournament for some of those teams that typically aren't going to advance all the way to like finals, grand finals rounds. So we kind of came up with this system. So one of the base changes, of course, is the team sizes. We went down to teams of 6 with an optional team manager. Again, we have this issue of super teams in the past, right? So we're going to make the teams a little smaller. We're going to make the talent pool a little more spread out. So we're going to maybe allow for some more teams to be competitive at the top end. This also was aimed to help with scheduling. There's historically been a lot of issues and concerns with scheduling when you have a full team of 8 that's people from North America, Europe, Asia, where it's like, okay, every match is at the same time now, thanks. So this is hopefully going to help out with that as well. So that's kind of a couple of the basic concepts. And then, yeah, we went into, I think, the qualifiers format, which is the first big change that you can see with the format, which is where the qualifiers were part of the sign-up process. And I'm actually kind of curious what like your guys' thoughts on this particular change were as well, because it's definitely a departure where you sign up and you do your qualifier as part of the sign-up phase. Which is, again, it's kind of streamlining things down, right? You don't have a dedicated qualifiers weekend. It's just part of signups. And Half Slash is the pooler, I think, may have had some insight onto changing the pool format a little bit for that format change as well. So kind of, I would like to hear a little bit, I guess, from Half as to the map pool changes just regarding that specific thing before we go further into map pool stuff. And also kind of what you guys think of that first change where it's qualifiers as a sign-up format.
Yeah. So as far as the pool, so because we now have a system where a team is very heavily rewarded for seeding really high, this makes it a lot more. This makes a lot more sense towards to biasing the qualifiers towards that round. So for example, there was this like 7.2 star average pool for qualifiers, and the format's a little wonky, but it's because it leads into the format that will be presented for the tri pool pretty much in KO1, which is the first bracket stage. So it's very similar to that, little different, but very similar. And I think that's the main thing. It's just like, well, if you're going to you're going to basically be able to skip 2 entire weeks of play, you should definitely be able to perform really well on something similar to the first round you're going to be playing in. So that's why the format's a little wonky. The whole like tri pool stuff has the 10 mini pool sorts of stuff, and obviously that's not really reflective of your like full pools. So this 3-2-2-3 format was a little bit closer to that, while still getting these skill sets in. So that's the main gist of it. I think we can talk a lot more about that as the weeks go on as to why specifically like and how that correlates. But you guys will have to see that pool once it comes out. So.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about that like later in the podcast. For now, I think we're gonna just talk about what comes after the round robin, because I know you were talking about the knockout one round as the bracket stage, so we don't have like normal quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, grand finals, etc. It's knockout one, knockout two in the third and fourth weeks of the tournament, and there's a runoff weekend also in between those. So let's just briefly touch on those, because I think there is an explanation on the website, but probably a lot of people either haven't read it and just read the round
Nobody
robin
reads
stuff.
anything.
Nobody reads.
Yeah.
Nobody reads forum posts. So let's talk about those
Yeah.
things real quick, and then we'll get into what actually happened in qualifiers, who the
Okay.
top seeds are, who's playing in the round robin, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so qualifiers are, of course, formatted as the top 8 teams are the top in qualifiers, get the top 8 seeds and get to skip the round robin and skip the runoff brackets. So the round robin is 16 teams. You have team 9 through 24. And that's just a traditional round robin. People are pretty familiar with that, so I don't think there's too much that's confusing there that really needs to get explained. Like you said, we can kind of go through that one pretty easily. Traditional best of 9 one band, sort of standard map pool, all that jazz. Then,
Basically group stages.
Yeah, it's just a round robin group stage. And I will say that if anybody is like watched League of Legends Worlds, this is a similar format to what they use, so you can kind of keep that in mind. So placements, if you win your group, you go on to the knockout one stage. So again, you get kind of that week off situation. If you are second and third, well, actually, no. If you're fourth, you get eliminated. So don't finish fourth. Don't get eliminated, please. The second and third teams are where things get a little interesting. So if you get second or third in your group, you go into what is called a runoff bracket, which is essentially like a standard bracket, right? You play, what is it? 2 rounds. That's winners go on to round 2. Losers are eliminated in the first round. And then I have to actually like pull this up to be able to confidently discuss this.
I do have it pulled up. It's a single elim for the first round.
For the first, yeah.
And then the second round is basically just like a finals and third place match for the last 4 teams that are still left. So the winners of both matches become seeds 13, 14. And then if you win the first round and lose the second round, you become seeds 15, 16. But the runoff bracket is single elim for the first round. So don't get 4th seed in your group, and don't lose your first match in the runoff bracket, and you make it into the actual knockout stages.
Yeah, that. So it's like top 4 from the runoff, then go into the knockout bracket. And that's where things I feel like are going to be a little confusing to people, because knockout 1 is like kind of a unique format compared to the rest of the tournament. If you look at like the rules, like our round robin, runoff, knockout 2 are all very similar, but knockout 1 is the set based portion of the tournament. So if people were around last year, they'll remember sets. It was best of 3 sets. Each set is a best of 7 unto itself. And this is also where the pooling stuff gets a little interesting. So Half can probably talk a little bit about Knockout 1, how that's going to function, because it's got a little bit more going on with the pools.
Yeah, so
okay.
we've yeah. So basically, we talked quite a bit about that. So again, we have the similar sort of pool structure for most of the rounds: round robin, run off, and even like the last knockout stage pool. They're all kind of similar in the sense of they're just like a regular pool. We have a tri pool for knockout 1, and so that kind of basically it's similar to something like CPMC in the sense of you have like 10 maps in each like mini pool. The difference is over there, this what you did was you'd basically ban out pools until you had one left and you played the one that was left. Here it's there will be essentially like a selection process for determining the first pool. Then it's like the loser picks the next pool in the second set, and then the last pool gets played if you're one-on-one in each set. So it's kind of how that goes. As for the actual like details, nitty-gritty, again, we'll wait till later weeks to really talk about how that's arranged, especially as you guys actually see this come out. But that was kind of the idea there.
Yeah, so suffice it to say, you get through the round robin group stage, you get through the runoff, then you go do this kind of unique format again. It's kind of mixing things up. It's making things a little more interesting. Also, KO1 is where we actually start to see everybody playing again. So you get to see the top teams, which is like, so it's top 16 teams in the KO1 stage. And this is all in one bracket, right? So this is like 2 stages in one bracket that are a little different. So again, like pay attention to this stuff. But yeah, we get to see the top 8 teams again. You get to see all 16 teams that are still alive at this point in the bracket. And they're going to play a single elim first 2 rounds in the round of 16 and the quarterfinals of the bracket using this format. Best of 3 sets that are best of 7 each. And then after that, it actually gets easier because you go to the KO2 stage, which is just semifinals, and then finals and third place match, which are just a standard best of 13, 1 protect 2 bans per team, like basically a normal format. So if you get through KO1, you get to a normal format again after KO1 is a little confusing. KO2 is normal.
But important note, all of the knockout matches are single elim. Yep. So if you lose a single match in the knockout stage, you are eliminated from the tournament until you get to knockout 2, where even if you lose semifinals, you still are completely locked out of top 2 for the tournament.
Brutal. That's so brutal.
Yeah, it's a stakes thing, right? Because it puts the qualifiers format put higher precedence on getting top 8 because you get to skip out. You don't have to worry about going through the round robin. You don't have to worry about going through the runoff bracket. So you get straight into a kind of preferential seed in the actual bracket stage. And then single elim, again, just every match is going to be super, super important. We want everybody to be really locked in and every match to really have a lot of feeling like it means something. Again, every team that gets to that stage now gets to feel like they're playing super important, meaningful matches as soon as the round of 16 begins. And I think that just raises the stakes a little bit, makes everything feel a little bit more important. And it should be really exciting both for the players, commentators, and the viewers, of course, as well, who are very important to that. Additionally.
Yeah, I think especially in the group stages, having the 3rd seed still be able to get into the main bracket is really cool because most times in group stages it's just top 2 and those are decided pretty early on in most groups. So having it be top 3 is really cool. In the interest of time, because I know we have a lot to talk about here, we're gonna start talking about the qualifier results. Unless there's, I think that's everything. Anything else to add on format stuff? I think we're good though. I think we can toss it to Shiba and go over some qualifier result stuff.
Yeah, I believe so.
We've covered formats. So going to cause results. I mean, you have multiple super teams here. I mean, I think Titan Hollow and Flipinski are like the 2 biggest teams that you would expect to do really well in these qualifiers. And it's safe to say, if you take a look at qualifier results, Flipinski completely decimated this qualifiers. I mean, several number ones. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 number 1 team placements out of the entire pool. That is insanely high level, very consistent, and obviously the favorites to win. Looking like further down, you've got No Title, the kind of star South Korean team, and then you have LaFish, and then you think, where's Titan Hollow? They're in 4th place. I mean, unless I don't have any information based on who didn't play, I'm quite shocked to see Titan Hollow in 4th. Granted, no title, have an incredible team, but when you have a full basically OWC roster and you perform better in qualifiers than a literal like godsend super team, it raises a few concerns. I don't really know if they were missing anybody, but that's like a pretty shocking one for me, particularly. Like I was expecting them to guarantee top 2. But yeah, and further down, you've got multiple national exclusive teams here qualifying to the top 8. You've got all Gate Bros on 8th, who are exclusively a Chinese roster. You've got the Roundtable Hong Kong placing 6th, which are exclusively Hong Kong players. You have Ram Sing, which is kind of a hybrid between Russia and Ukraine. You've got players like Raf GPO, Scrowell, Welter.
You also have Lisberry from Thailand, because that guy is broken.
That dude is so good. When did that dude get so good?
He's been pretty good for a while, but he finally ranked up. So now he's here in Corsace, messing stuff up.
Dude is built. And then of course you've got No Title. I mean, I think everyone is already kind of knows this, but South Korea are one of the big favorites to be World Cup champions for the first time in like 5-6 years. 100% one of the favorites. And if they get second in Open, let's say if they get top 3 as a final result, I mean, that is a huge tell for what this team is capable of in OS World Cup. If you can beat multiple super teams, it's quite unreal. And then you've got third in LaFish, which actually have quite a cool roster, having Rectagon and Chocomint. I mean, Cookie Z is back, baby, and he's on a really stacked roster. They've got a good hybrid of aim players along with some really good mechanics with Watchi and Window Life. So these guys are quite flexible.
I also want to point out on the topic of country exclusive teams, KFC Zingerbox in 9th is full Australia, and this roster really surprised me because I didn't expect them to do as well as they did. Vivace is their manager and not a player. The team itself has like Big Snag, Arbuzin, and Sayo from the Australian OWC team last year, but then you have O/, who is ranked 4,700, JGLF, who is 1712 BWS, and CS2, who I haven't ever seen play a tournament before. Very high ranked player, rank 160, but I just haven't seen him in tournament. So to me, it's really I think looks very good for Australia to have a team like that 9th, when obviously like MREC is not playing on this team. Secret Box is not playing in Open this year, so a team with not Australia's best players. A lot of very good players in Big Snag, Arbuzin, and Sayo, but obviously MREC is like the best player they have. Secret Box is probably their best tournament player outside MREC right now, because the Secret Box has just always been broken. So for these 6 players to get number 9 and best seed in the group stage is really solid for them. A little farther down, you have Godfield Gaming. You have a full French team in top 24 also. So there's quite a lot of pretty high up there country-specific teams in this tournament, which is very cool to see. I think part of that is the scheduling changes, which we didn't talk about, but I think the scheduling changes really incentivize like single continent or single country teams, which we have a lot of now.
Yeah. I mean, Godfield Gaming is one of those teams that I'm really excited to see because they're a full Japanese squad. But on top of that, they have lots of really good players easing back into the tournament scene. You've got Valvalian, who's returned. I think he's one of the most exciting players to look out for in this team. We're going to have to see if he can still hold on to that amazing consistency and well-roundedness he had previously. You've also got players like A-Blue, who is really good. He is known as Yama Darkness. And generally, I think these guys are a really exciting team to watch. They've got some really good levels of mechanics, specifically aim in particular. Having Alta Lean and A Blue on there is really strong. And I'm looking forward to what this team can do. I'm expecting this team to maybe pull a couple upsets because I really like this roster.
Let's talk a little bit about seeds 9 through 24 then. I guess, and I think we're probably going to end up blending a lot of seeds 9 through 24 and the groups analysis because they're kind of the same thing. Seeds 9 through 24 are playing in the group stage, and they are also the remaining teams to talk about. So in order, KFC Zingerbox, Starbound, Dream Squad, Joy Flapinski's Boxall, Godfield Gaming, Grease Monkey Deluxe, Rubber Conquest, Blue Pants in the top 16. And then your bottom seeds are Fukamoto, The Leftovers, in my opinion, OWC France B, Ala Gaming, Swaglords, Ice-T Jokobi, and Ghoul Mode as the last qualifying team in Corsace Open. Again, only 24 teams this year rather than the 32 or 64 that we had one year.
Yeah, definitely. So you talked about like KFC Zinger Box already. That team is really, really good. That's like if you pay attention to or watch like ANZT, there's some people in here who've been doing really well in the ANZT tournaments. Like CS2, formerly known as it's like AKNZX or something, has had some pretty good ANZT results. So that's, you mentioned not seeing him in like big tournaments, but he has been around in like the Australian regional tournaments. Also, shout outs to the return of Starbound. I haven't seen that team name in literally like 3 years, and there's no one in common with the old Starbound iterations other than Digital Hypno, who is still and will forever be rank 1 BWS, of course. But that roster is actually like pretty scary, despite maybe not having, again, like all of these amazing international players. Like you don't see Araxi playing a ton of big open rank or international. Same for Jackson. Emla is like retirement.
Cappy ain't plays shit.
Set.
That guy just shows up for
Cappy,
USC every year.
Yeah, Cappy plays USC, carries Florida on certain maps. But I think this team is like a lot of skill. It's just I'm curious to see how well they actually play once we get into matches, because I haven't seen them, a lot of these guys in this sort of tournament in a very long time. But I think it's one of those where there's talent, but it remains to be seen how they'll actually perform.
Yeah,
I mean,
go
on, dear. Go on, dear.
No, I was going to move on to the groups. Actually, go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, just taking a look at a couple more rosters, I think Blue Pants are one of those teams I'm looking forward to seeing how they do. Having multiple really good aim mechanics players like Dingleton and Razorfruit are going to be really exciting to see. They also have Gaby and C. If I remember correctly, C is a reading player. If I could be wrong on that.
He's a really good like speed mechanics, aim mechanics. Player.
Yes.
And
Caleb's like a pass player.
He is also good at reading, but that's not like the main thing that people know him for. He is good at it though.
Yeah. I mean, on top of that, having Almighty Door, one of the really strong tech players in the tournament scene, I think he's a little bit. I haven't seen many people talk about this dude because he's really, really good on tech specifically, but generally also is quite well rounded. So again, these guys have some really good mechanics teams, really good mechanics roster. This team, Starbound and Godfield Gaming, are probably my 3 most excited teams to look for. You also, I thought I'd also mention, you've also got Swaglords, who, if I remember correctly, are exclusively Canadian. Having, despite a little bit strange to have Yip, one of the better Canadian players, as your manager and not your player. That's a bit strange, but generally these guys have some really good mechanics players as well. Speed in particular with Vesper and Too Slow.
Yeah, there's also Ice-T Jokowi is all Indonesian, so another one.
Yeah,
lots of
country-only
tournaments. Yeah, or country-only teams.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think this is the most we've seen in open rank tournaments where there are so many. I mean, these guys are basically World Cup rosters at this point.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of those. I think the other couple of teams I am excited to see. I'm really excited for Group D's matchups because you have 12-13 and 20-21. So you have two groups of 2 that are the exact same seed almost going head to head in that group. I think it's going to be really fun to watch, especially because like OWC France B, Ala Gaming are able to take points on this map pool. Like it's not such a hard pool that you just kind of give up as either of these teams. You're kind of looking at like Musty, Charlie, Rocky to be taking points for OWC France B, and for Ala Gaming, you have like Flames Tear, Pinkus, Wispy, Suzuha's on that team. I haven't seen Suzuha play an open rank international in a long time. So there's a lot of like very good players on both of those teams, and I'm excited to see how they do. Despite that, their competition is pretty stiff in that group. So good luck to them, because Joy Flapinski's Boxall and Godfield Gaming are really good teams. So good luck to them. I think groups B and C are going to see like a lot of upsets because you have a lot of teams that are close-ish in seeding, but still a little far away from each other. Like you have 15-18 in Group B, you have 14-19 in Group C. So, and their top seeds are 10 and 11, so not super super high. So I think there's going to be a lot of upsets in those two groups. I think they're going to be fun to watch.
I feel like that's kind of like a quirk of the way the groups were done, right? So it's like this like snake group seeding method instead of like vertical. So you ended up with, I think, some really, really competitive groups in that fashion. They're going to be, I think, a little maybe more balanced. So hopefully that will result in really closely fought group matches and group standings.
I will shout out. Definitely looking forward to the leftovers. I'm captaining that team. We only had 5 players in qualifiers, and our 5th player played 2 maps after hopping off of CS:GO for 2 weeks. So I'm hoping we can show up in group stages. Please, team, stop playing CS:GO. Get on the maps. Put some scores on the team sheet. Thanks. Hopefully that works out for us.
Bro's calling out his
We'll see
team in
I really am.
podcast.
Put some scores on the sheet. Stop playing CS:GO.
Can we just get can we get some text on your camera that says sponsored by Riot Games?
Sponsored by Riot Game. Riot does not make CS:GO.
No,
hold on.
It's because you were telling people to get off of CS:GO.
Oh, get off. Sponsored by Pepe.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Pepe. Get
Okay,
off
okay,
CS:GO.
sure.
All right, shall we move on then, gentlemen? Shall we move on, or do we still have a few teams to talk about?
I think we're good. I think we can move on.
We go.
Okay. Well, let's talk about our predictions then for the round robin. We've got a lot of teams to talk about, so let's get started.
Yeah.
One of you guys want to pitch in your idea for the first match?
So Group A, KFC Zingerbox, Blue Pants, Fukamotor, Ghoul Mode. Well, KFC Zingerbox wins the group. I don't really think there's much concern there. I'm pretty sure they just go 3-0. Wait, I need to bring up. Like,
honestly, I don't know how Blue Pants versus Fukamotor goes. Like, you have 2 really, really good teams for both of these squads. Like, even the lower ranked players on Fukamotor are both really good in Megamick and Zeph 2003. Like, both of those are really, really good players. Zeph's a tournament player and former 5-digit one. He's BWS'd up to like 2K because of all his badges from 5-digit tournaments. So the consistency on lowish star rating, which this pool is like lowish star rating, it's like mid-high 6 stars, is definitely there for him. And then you have like Rampax, Konkon Kitsune, Nathan Ram, Hakui Koyori. Like, all of these players are really good. I don't know how they stack up exactly against Kama, Door, Dingleton, Razorfruit, Gaby, and C, though, because those are interesting teams. They're extremely close on a lot of maps, but you have, for example, like big gaps on No Mod 1, No Mod 2, No Mod 3, No Mod 4 between the teams. You have a lot of really like high score gap maps between these two. You have other high gaps on like the Hard Rock 1, the Hard Rock 2, DT, or sorry, Hard Rock 2 and DT 1. Actually, the whole DT pool, you see like big gaps between the two. I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting match, and I think it'll probably be very back and forth between the teams. So I don't really know how to call it. If I had to just call it based off of name recognition, I'd probably give it to Blue Pants, but that doesn't always work. So
yeah,
no, I think Blue Pants is just better. Sorry, like
I think I agree.
Door,
I think Blue Pants just have a much better roster.
Yeah,
I agree. I think
they're seed 16, 17 for a reason. I don't know, guys.
I know.
Yeah, but I mean, qualifiers can be quite different to in-game stuff. I mean, there are multiple examples of this. I mean, Titan Hollow is probably the biggest example where for the insane level your team is at, you shouldn't be top 4, you should be top 2, and qualifiers can reflect on other teams as well. So on paper, if I was to really look at these rosters in depth, I know Fukamoto have some really good players, but unfortunately, I don't think I'm educated enough on the players to really give a solid definite like point on where I think they will place. But out of the recognition that I have from KFC Zinger Box, I mean, having a great seeding and Blue Pants just despite struggling in quals, having an insane roster on paper, I think those two are guaranteed to be top 2. I think Blue Pants could put up a fight against KFC Zinger Box, but again, they're not going to be the favorites.
Yeah, I think this group just goes in order. Personally, I think
I agree.
The obviously the Blue Pants versus Fukumoto is the closest matchup, but I think it is most likely to just go in order. I would not be overly surprised if Fukumoto pulls off the upset there, but I think my expectation is that it goes just seed order, and we see Fukumoto and Blue Pants going to run off, and we see KFC Zinger Box going to the next round.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unfortunately for Gulmud being bottom seed, you've got a huge mountain ahead of you.
They have some good players, but the skill cap is just not nearly as high as the other two teams.
I mean,
skill cap don't matter. It's round round robin. Skill cap don't matter.
I
don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I kind of agree with both sides. It's early stage, so this is the stage where upsets are most valuable because you have that early lower star rating map pool. But still, it's not like these maps are like poopy easy and any team can FC everything. But Gore mode, I recognize some, and I don't know anything about others. I mean, I know.
I think Glow mode is probably 4th, and KFC Zinger Box is 1st. I mean,
Korean
is very arguable. That's all.
I think Korean Malako is like a huge how do I say it? Like a huge outlier here. I mean, I think he's far and away the best player on this roster. I'm surprised he's not on any higher level teams because I think this guy is cracked. But I guess he wants to stick to his guns.
Indeed, he is by far and away the best player on this team, and that is why they are getting 4th, because they have Korean Maluko, and like as good as the other players are to have qualified in this tournament, they are 24th seed against many teams that are seeded much higher on them than them and have better players. So yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, yeah. For them, it is what it is, really. And I do agree with the. I think it's just going to be in seeding order. I think Blue Pants are going to perform better than Fukumoto, and I think KFC Zinger Box are just going to pop off and win that whole group. So let's move on to the second group, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Because I think this is. I think these do have some decent teams, but I think this is probably one of the less exciting groups here. I mean, you do have Starbound. But I think that's kind of, and you have the leftovers Dio's team, Pogfish. That's cool. But again, I think this is quite a predictable one for me personally.
I think this is obviously I'm completely unbiased for this group, so I'm gonna go with the leftovers in first, and then Starbound, and then Rubber Conquest. But like. Real talk, I think there's a lot of potential for upsets in this group, again, because my team had people who just weren't playing qualifiers. Like, we were effectively perma-lobbied the entire time because it's teams of 6 in a 4v4. So if you're missing 2 players, you are perma-lobbied. Your entire team is perma-lobbied. And that's not the way that teams are meant to be played. And because I did in-depth analysis for this group, because I'm a team manager, all of the other teams had all 6 players there the entire time. So I'm expecting group stage to go differently in this group. I'm expecting my team to do better than our initial seeding. Whether we get out as 1st or 2nd, I'm not sure, but I do expect us to overperform compared to qualifiers because I think we just kind of shat the bed a little bit. That said, Starbound's really good. Starbound is really good. So hard to if you're a betting man, bet against Starbound in any of these matchups. That's for sure.
Yeah, Starbound are far and away the best team here. The second lowest is Robocop is like whole 5 seeds down. I mean, none of these matches are super majorly close in seeding. I think, of course, the closest one is Robocop and the leftovers about 3 seed difference, but it's different compared to other groups like Group D and Group A, where you have multiple teams that are like literally neck and neck in seedings in qualifiers. But yeah, I think if the leftovers show up and they all actively play together, I think they could maybe overtake Rubber Conquest. But Starbound just look like a force to be reckoned with. I don't think they're gonna lose anything. I think those are going to be the winners for sure.
I'm very bothered by this team sullying the Rubber Conquest name
It's Osu Truskill, in fact.
That yeah, this is literally Osu Truskill. It actually makes me upset a little bit that somebody is using the Rubber Conquest name for a team that has literally nothing in common with the original Rubber Conquest, and based on that, I simply am praying upon their demise.
Understandable.
The
Yeah,
integrity.
the fun fact, the Osu Truskill Discord server is no more. It got wiped and renamed a while ago. I know because I'm still in the server, but it's a completely different server now. It's no longer Osu Truskill. So don't expect to see that team name anywhere anymore, probably. Kind of a shame because the name was really good. The memes were really good, but not going to happen anymore, I don't think. But this is effectively a really similar roster. You have Zubs, TFGE, Chihuahua, who is Arj, BGM, who's another Chilean player, Chalk Gamer, who is another Chilean player, 5-digit World Cup winner when Chile won that a while back, and 6nusu9, who is, I think, another Chilean player. So, like, the big players for this team are Zubs, TFG, Chihuahua, who are all really, really good players. That's a super solid core three, and you're effectively just filling in a player here and there on other maps. It's a very good roster, but yeah, I think, like, realistically speaking, I think Starbound probably 3-0s, and I think the remaining second seed versus third seed is really interesting. But for Ice-T Jokowi, it's kind of the same story as Ghoul Mode, where, like, you're second to bottom seed overall, and so you have very little chance of taking matches in group stage.
I think just the most important match in this group is probably Rubber Conquest versus Leftovers, and I actually think Leftovers win that. And I think it goes Starbound first, Leftovers second, Rubber Conquest third, Ice-T Jokowi fourth.
I mean, if we're
Yo,
using
also, Dio, nice headphones. I just noticed.
Hey,
Nice
thanks,
headphones.
man. I like Sennheisers. They're pretty nice.
I've actually been thinking about getting a Sennheiser because I've currently got an Arctis wireless headset, but I've been interested in getting a Sennheiser. Do they do wireless headsets, Sennheiser?
I think Sennheiser does do wireless. I don't really prefer wireless because
Anyway.
I play Osu, but they do.
Anyway.
Quick side note. If you're gonna get Sennheiser headphones for Osu, get closed back headphones because otherwise you hear yourself tapping with open back.
I like mine, but
anyway,
you know what I like more than my Sennheiser headphones, Dio? I like Group C.
Osu. Group C is pretty
Agreed.
fun. I think Group C and Group D are gonna be really fun to watch and to predict and all that good stuff.
We've got Dream Squad, Grease Monkey Deluxe, in my opinion, and Swag Lords, which is quite the collection of team names.
Yeah, I mean, every team here is quite good. I think the only team that I'm not too educated on is probably, in my opinion, that's the only team I don't really have too much info on. But all the other teams, I know their rosters, and Grease Monkey have previously put up some very good results, and this team is really, really good. It's a shame that Paper Candle's their captain because he was a beast on this Grease Monkey team for Res Cup. So, but they do have some really good replacements. I mean, Kablaze, Zuma, Bunny Like Money. Zuma and Bunny Like Money are going to be insane on the mechanics. These guys are going to be cracked on speed. Having, if I remember correctly, isn't your Q a mechanics player as well?
Yes,
or am I getting that mixed up?
Yeah.
These guys are going to have a really sick speed / tap mechanics trio. So I'm looking forward to that. I mean, Zuma, I'm super hyped for. I can't lie to you, in terms of his play style and his insane levels of count, I'm kind of a Zuma fanboy. I can't lie to you. I mean, this guy is
Zuma's so
freak.
good. No, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Zuma's so good.
he is an absolute freak, and we've seen him do good in tournaments before, but this tournament is going to be one of the big ones where he's definitely going to put his name on the board as a very competent tournament player. Previously he did play decently in tournaments before, but most of the time people do know him for his unfathomable solo scores. Like bit of a I don't think this is a hot take. I think everyone else is going to think this is a hot take, but this guy literally rivals the mechanics of Emmerich, if not exceeds in some minor aspects. So when you have someone like that, it's going to be really exciting. And if this team makes it through to the late stages, Zuma is going to completely pop off, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I don't know about the MREC comparison, but
yeah, I don't know about that one. Maybe if we're talking 300 BPM,
maybe we
sure.
slow our roll on that one just
maybe,
a little
maybe
bit.
Maybe we slow our roll there a little bit.
Hey, look. Hot take, but you guys, it's okay to disagree. Agree to disagree, right? But I think this guy is cracked as fuck, and he's set some ridiculous scores. So I mean.
Yeah, one concern for me with this particular team and this particular group is that they kind of have what feels like a little bit of a wasted roster spot with the way that Kablaze has been playing. Not the most impressive by her standards.
Has she been underperforming recently? I've not seen her recent
She's
results.
been playing in USC. Well, was playing in USC until the team got eliminated, and didn't look like her former self. And when
Not
you
really,
only
no.
have 6 players on a roster, having one of them who's very definitely a shadow of their former selves is a bigger deal than it might be otherwise.
Damn, harsh words to you, Andre.
I mean, he's kind of
I
right though.
mean,
Like I don't know what to tell you
as
here.
I sees them, bro. I ain't trying to pull punches here, but like that is what it is.
Fabulous, man.
I mean, they got a decent seed anyway, but I don't think that. Like, I think they lose to, in my opinion, and I think there's a world where they. I mean, I don't think Kablaze like causes them to lose to that team, but like it doesn't help. I don't know. The rest of the team is really good. They can probably make up for Kablaze. Not unless she's like just derusted. I don't know. Maybe she's just derusted.
You think Grease Monkey Deluxe lose to In My Opinion? Really?
I don't really think so. Actually,
yeah,
I don't think they
so
can.
either.
I think
No,
they
I think
can, but I don't think they will.
Group stage pool, Taiwanese team.
Yeah, I mean,
You have a point.
I don't.
I mean,
let's be clear. I don't know this roster, but the names on Grease Monkey Deluxe, along with seeing their previous performances in last tournaments, like as like a kind of a group team, I do not see them excelling over, in my opinion, unless we see like a close kind of back-to-back kind of point trades in the pool. I think Grease Monkey Deluxe absolutely take it. I mean, again, early stage, group stage map pool. Plus, I don't know this team too well, but if I don't recognize any of the names in my mind, I don't really think that they're outstanding.
I mean, these are names you should probably recognize, with all due respect. But
I mean, I do.
fine.
Okay, so it's more of a matter of I know like 3 of the names, but I haven't seen them play at all. I haven't seen them play. I haven't commentated them.
I think the
research on this team.
biggest thing in my opinion, is that Taiwan has not really been a high level country in country-based tournaments in a pretty long time. Like, when did they win 3-digit World Cup? It was 2020, 2021?
Yeah, 2021, I believe.
It's been a while. Sheba's relatively new to casting, so I can understand him not knowing some of these names. Obviously, you have Shield and Willie and Spines Knight, who are really, really good. Diastrophism hasn't looked incredible.
Wait, Shield is in this team?
That's underscore slow.
That's
bro.
underscore slow is Shield.
Oh.
Yeah. This
guy.
Zuma moment. Okay.
I mean, he's had that name
Carson
for...
Zuma moment. I did not know. I thought. I mean, I know Shield's been playing solo, but I haven't seen him play tournaments in a while. I mean, it might just be the name change where I didn't recognize it. But okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Shield is a beast. I cannot argue with that.
I think this group is just really contested. I think is what we're kind of getting to the way we're discussing it. Like, I think there aren't any results in this group that would be shocking, because these teams there's no like one standout among these particular teams. I think they're all just solid. None of them are bad. None of them are as good as some of the teams at the top. And as such, literally anything could happen. This is like group of death, because they're all at like a pretty high, but not absolutely top end level.
I think as well, like one of the things that Half-Slash and I were discussing about the map pool, because I took some map pool feedback to him in DMs, like there's not a lot of like just straightforward mechanics maps, and that is the thing that Dream Squad is best at. Like, you look at their scores from qualifiers, and it's like 800k average no mod 2 or no mod 1, 480k average no mod 2, and then they don't have anything else great until Hard Rock 2, basically. Their Hard Rock 1 was also good, but not great. And the DT pool, where they are like far and away the best team in the group. So outside of DT, there isn't a lot that they are like 100% really strong over the other teams in this group on. So I think picking Hidden, picking Hard Rock, picking Free Mod, picking unconventional no mod stuff, of which there is plenty in this pool, is a really easy to execute strategy for most of the other teams in this group against the top seed. And even if you can't win, you're probably getting points off of them anyway, which I don't think is the case most of the time for KFC, Zingerbox, and Starbound in groups A and B. I think those two teams are probably taking most of the points in all of their matches without much trouble. As compared to Dream Squad, I think we'll have a little bit more trouble doing that in this group. So I'm looking forward to if not a contested group, very many contested matches in this group.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be the fun one. This is like in terms of how close it can be, of these three.
That
And,
said, I'm still probably putting Dream Squad 1
yeah.
in my opinion second, Grease Monkey third, Swag Lords fourth. I think 2-3 in all of these groups is really
Such a coin
contested.
flip. Yeah.
And I think that Grease Monkey Deluxe's matchup is a little harder into Dream Squad because they were also good on DT. So that just makes it like harder for them to win against Dream Squad because their strengths are a lot of the same stuff, and Dream Squad is really, really good on that. That said, if Grease Monkey Deluxe overperforms on DT this weekend, they do have a chance of getting first out of the group. So I think it's just like, I think top 3 seeds are all over the place in this group. Swag Lords, unfortunately, I think a lot of their like average scores in the qualifiers pool point to them probably getting fourth anyway. But I think top 3 is like a complete toss up in this group. You have a world where Grease Monkey Deluxe can get first. You have a world where, in my opinion, can get first if they're able to like free mod and hidden abuse. And you have a world where Dream Squad can get first if they are executing really well on the lower star rating stuff and they don't get low SR'd. So it's a fun group.
Yeah, I don't recognize many of the names on Dream Squad. Can I get like a little explanation on? I know Amacetic and Jackpacks. I know Amacetic's like a beast on mechanics, but that is all I know on this team. I'm guessing they're really good mechanics.
Zape and Amacetic are the same player. Handsome Me is one of the best Russian OWC players. How to play? I actually forget who this person is. That's another Russian OWC player. And then Jack Pax is also a really good mechanics player. So they have kind of an overload of mechanics players on this team. But Handsome Me, How to Play, and Deske are all like really, really good hard rock players, alt tech players, that type of stuff. So they're going to be good on most stuff and very solid on mechanics.
Yeah, so not only are they cracked on mechanics, but they also have a little bit of diversity with that hard rock and alt tech ability. So okay, no, I in that case I definitely understand them being number one. Yeah, I mean, you guys have already kind of mentioned most of it. Top 3 is going to be super exciting. I think because all 3 of these teams are great on mechanics, and unfortunately for Swag Lords, I think this team just kind of goes just down a little bit of a tier. I don't really see them doing too well. They do also have some really good mechanics players. I think this team is also quite good on speed / type mechanics. But again, I think the other 3 teams are just a little bit better. I think top 3 is the most exciting for this. Let's move on to Group D. I think this is one of the most exciting groups, if not the most. You could disagree, but all 4 of these teams are quite evenly matched. Both 2 teams. So you've got Joe from Seeds Baxel and Godfield Gaming at 12 and 13th seed. Then you have OWC France B and Ally Gaming seed 20 and 21. Those 2 matches are going to be sick. So sick.
Yeah, just looking at the scores from qualifiers, like 12 versus 13 is really competitive on the DT pool. Competitive on different hard rock maps in the hard rock pool, competitive on different hidden maps in the hidden pool, and competitive on every single map in the no mod pool. It's like a complete coin flip match. Like, I don't know that you could call it except for roster strength and lack of nerves. So yeah, just by like roster strength, lack of nerves, I almost want to give it to Godfield Gaming just because it's a team that's been together, has played multiple OWCs together, has played multiple Corsace Opens together for I don't know how many years at this point.
A lot.
Rollpan has been as well around for like Rollpan's been around playing tournaments for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that ends up being the difference maker a lot of times when you have close matches like this. So I want to give it to Godfield Gaming based off of that. But it's such a coin flip that's what I'm using to decide the matchup. Like I'm not actually using like what the players are good at or their qualifier scores. I'm using just like name value and how long they've been together as a team. And that I think speaks more to how close the matchup is going to be than anything else.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head on that matchup. I mean, they're both very, very evenly matched. It's going to be one of the hypest matches in this early stage. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's going to be really, really neck and neck. But let's look at the other 2 teams in OW France B and Ally Gaming. I know OWC France B, despite them there being mostly a French roster, but on top of that, they're missing one or two really good French players. I mean, they're missing Flaste. I
It's
think he's one of the.
called the B team for a reason, Shiba. It's called the B
Yeah.
team for a
Oh.
reason.
But I
Where's
think that
OWC team? Where's France team A? What the heck? Why is Musty
oh, where's
team B?
Akoro? Where's the
Where's Akoro?
Wait, where's
granted.
where's what's his face? Oh my god, why is his name not coming to mind? Where's Mbappe?
Yeah.
Where is Mbappe? Where's
Where's
Vroom?
Mbappe?
Where's Room? Yeah, I think this team is like decent, but not amazing, and they're going to be really reliant on like their top couple players. I think it feels like to me. Like Musty is really good, Charlie Lee is really good, Araki is pretty good. I don't know. I feel like I just have to see this team actually playing in a match to have any sort of feel on how well they're going to do.
I mean, are they like indirectly? Are they just? I mean, I don't know. I'm surprised they call it team B. Where is team A? That's my big question. Where is team A? We need to see OW France team A. Otherwise, this team B thing is pointless. You might as well just call it OWC France without like 3 really good players on our team.
And team B, because they're just missing.
Yeah. True. Quick notes on how qualifiers went for these two teams. Ala Gaming is way better on DT. They had a higher average score on every single DT map. OWC France is better on Hard Rock. They had higher average scores on both Hard Rocks. These teams had almost the exact same scores on both hidden maps. So expect hidden to be like avoided probably, unless one team is really, really comfortable on something. And then the Nomad picks are kind of back and forth between them. The team that's better at DT is actually not better at Nomad 2 because of how the Nomad 2s look in this tournament. They're like tech streams and aim control streams rather than stamina streams. So you give that to OWC France instead of Ala Gaming. You give aim in general to Ala Gaming with the Nomad 1, and then Nomad 3 is pretty contested because that was like an alt speed hybrid map. It was weird in qualifiers. It was a weird map. So yeah. It's a close matchup with Hidden being super contested, Nomad being pretty contested, and then Hard Rock and DT going to one team out of the two. That said, there's more maps in DT than Hard Rock, so maybe you give it to Ala Gaming because there's more maps in DT than Hard Rock. I don't know. There's only one ban for both teams, but there's 3 maps in DT.
Yeah, I mean, you've said everything I was going to say. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to add. Both these teams are going to be quite close. I think for Joyful Mixes, Blackstone, Godfield Gaming, it's more going to be a constant clash between both strengths constantly. Whereas for Ala Gaming and OWC France B, you've got lots of back and forth map wins that both of them are kind of separate on. And then later on, in the late stage, that's where we're going to see a lot more closer maps once their guaranteed picks are exhausted.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be interesting. It's a close group. I think top 2 is already pretty much decided. Bottom 2 is already pretty much decided. So I think the really interesting thing is who between Joy Flipinski's Boxall and Godfield Gaming gets to skip the runoff bracket, and who between OWC France B and Ala Gaming actually gets eliminated in this group and doesn't even get to go to the runoff bracket, because it's gonna be close. Like there are really good players for both Godfield Gaming and Joy Flipinski Boxall. There's a really close matchup between OWC France B and Ala Gaming, and I honestly don't know how to call it like for either of those matchups. I think it's gonna be close for both. If you forced me to give an order, I would probably go Godfield Gaming, Joy Flipinski, Ala Gaming, and then OWC France B. I think that would be my order.
This man just spoke my thoughts into existence right there. That is exactly how I was gonna call it too. Yeah, I like the experience of Godfield and their time over the years spent in tournament situations like this, and then Ala Gaming I think just has players who are currently playing better than the players on OWC France B.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the top 2. I don't agree with the bottom 2. I think OWC France B can take it. I think they just generally have a more kind of not only these guys more familiar with each other. These guys have played previous OWCs before, But I'd say this is one of the teams where they're a little bit more diverse, especially having Fie around now, who's a huge player, not only in reading, but on top of that in normal twos and tapping mechanics. So that's going to be they're going to be one player that I'm looking forward to seeing. I think generally OWZ France B do take it by a little bit, but I do agree with Godfield Gaming taking number one. I think especially if Varvalion sticks to his prime, or at least close to his prime, especially. I mean, that's just an addition. I still think Godfield Gaming will take it despite him being really close.
Okay.
All right. Well,
So I think
people are
that's
going
it
to
for
have
the
some
groups.
receipts. People are going to have some receipts
People
for
will
us.
have receipts. Yeah,
But it's fine because that
like
comes
that.
with the territory. Making predictions. It's just how it goes.
That's part of the job, right? You know, we make predictions. We might get clowned on Twitter. That's a chance, not a
I
guarantee.
love getting clowned on Twitter. It's my favorite thing to do. Shout outs South Korea OWC last year. But yeah, that's the groups, how we see them. Feel free to disagree on Twitter if you want. Such is life.
Feel free.
And then I think the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna actually talk about the pool structure changes for this year, and what the map pool looks like, because it's a little bit different from a usual map pool. That's for sure. There's a lot of non-standard picks basically in this pool.
Time to shine, buddy.
It's fun.
It's your time to shine.
This is
awesome.
This is Haffy's time to shine, and it is also unfortunately my time to depart. So. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you guys for having me. I'll let Halfslash do his thing, but I'm dipping out, so we'll see you guys.
Goodbye, King. Ciao,
See
ciao.
ya.
Have a good evening.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so I'll just get cracking. So a couple things. So briefly touched on this with the when we mentioned the qualifier format changes. It was more slanted towards a KO1, so a future pool rather than this week, so like round robin. But more importantly, it's a different bit of a philosophy is in terms of composition. So the way that qualifier format has typically gone, you know, with the 4-2-2-2 system, is that it represents kind of like the mechanic slots, and it kind of treats the rest of the pools in future rounds as kind of like the fillers. So since the general approach to this year's pools is that every map is more filler-esque and less of a, you know, guaranteed like pure mechanics map. The qualifier ultimately represents an average, and even though the format is closest to the KO1, it's still just an average of the kind of maps that you would expect, right? So it's like, you know, that to go to the qualifier format, it's like the no mod 1s, like they're going to be aim maps, right? And the no mod 2s are going to be stream maps, but in particular what it tells you about that is, like, for example, the no mod 1, no mod 2, no mod 1 is going to have more pattern complexity and other fun tricks depending on the stage. So that's another part of the philosophy, is that basically the pools are designed to vary more between rounds. Since a lot of the feedback that I saw in the past couple of years was that people did not actually want to play the same pool week to week. They wanted variety. To facilitate that, we did a couple things with the pools in general. One of them was making them smaller, and the other thing is eliminating fillers. But as a result, you know, if we eliminate fillers, then the variety's got to go somewhere, and it goes into the whole pool. So it's kind of where that's going. So yeah, no mod 1, no mod 2, there's still aim and stream respectively. Though no mod 2s, I will say, lean a lot more aimy on average. That may not be the case for every single round. The no mod 3 is interesting because in a lot of the pools, actually, it doesn't necessarily reflect it. So this is another quirk of trying to bias towards the KO1, where this is a speed map, at least in qualifiers. And anyone who's played this will tell you that it barely feels like a speed map to speed players. But if you're not a speed player, you will get gated really easily. You would get gated really easily on it. So, and you'll see a lot of this. A lot of the no mod type speed maps, you'll start to see they're just a bit different. They have non-speed elements with them. This is just a bit more natural when it comes to people that actually map this type of thing. And then so you got the rest. So Hidden 1, I'm sure you noticed it's not an aim map like it's been in the past couple of years. This is instead closer to the Hidden 3 type of thing, where it's like the low BPM like filler thing. It's like fast aim / aim control / light tack, whatever you got. It's like that combination of stuff. Hidden 2, it's still low AR. So this was definitely like a trickier type of low AR. If we go with the qualifiers one, where you have some like aim control in some of the streams, but for the most part, it's still an aim map. Then your Hard Rock one, it was more of a light tech, so aim consistency, some burst sort of thing. You'll start to see this a lot more often. And it's kind of similar to the way Hard Rock 1's trended last year, where they're sort of more of a multi-skill consistency test rather than like a pure aim check. But nonetheless, still more straightforward, I'd say, than the Nomad 1. Hard Rock 2, this one was a like multi-skill precision map. If you played Corsace Open 2021, you know the type of map. It's basically running it back. That one was very well received. So, and then DT1, DT2, DT3. DT1, it was an aim map. Thank God. A little bit more of a pattern-focused aim map. But it was still an aim map nonetheless. DT2 was it's your typical stamina sort of map. And in particular, though, it was lower BPM than I think most people would expect. And again, something you can kind of expect with some of the like later rounds is you'll sort of notice that the BPM ranges are a little bit more approachable than they have been in previous years. COC, like Corsace Open 2021, focused a lot more on pushing speed skill cap. But I'd say that this one is kind of doing the opposite, where it's going to more accessible BPM ranges. Ones that some speed players would question, it's like, what the hell? This isn't even speed. But, it's like, if you can't play it, well, you still get gated. The thing is, it's just a larger amount of all-rounders will be able to play it, complementing, of course, the smaller peak team sizes. So one compensation for the fact that you won't be able to do full roster swaps in for speed is that now it's like that means that you've got to have more all-rounders you've got more all-rounders in general going on teams, and they should be able to play these BPM ranges a little bit better. And then you have the DT3. So here's the thing. If you've seen the forum post /rule/whatever on the site, you'll notice that, the knockout one format is like 4-2-2-2 for each mini pool. However, there's always been a big issue with pooling like a gimmick map in qualifiers. And that's the main reason where I'm like, okay, I can't just put a gimmick map. But at the same time, I noticed that even despite the DT3 like being like the filler aim control like reading sort of pick, it never gets tested for how common it actually is from round to round. So I'm like, all right, can't do gimmick. We slashed out basically like the alt and the tech. We need some aim control here. So let's test it in the DT format. So kind of the run through of why qualifiers was the way it is. It's not perfectly reflective of round to round, but the pools are not anywhere near as constant as they have been. So I think it's still a decent approximation. That said, when you look at something like the round robin pool, you can see kind of like what I mean, where it's like, oh, this is an approximation. This is not a 1-to-1 like previous years. Like Nomad 1, like round robin, like AR9 Nomad 1. I'm sure it has been many years since anyone has seen that, but we're running it back. And then, like Nomad 2, this is a tech stream map. This is actually kind of similar to the way, very close to the qualifiers one. I can almost guarantee you that next week's will not. But, Nomad 3, it's an alt map. So this one I'd say is somewhere, this is probably one of the least, like, analogous ones compared to the qualifiers. Because the hidden one was more on the streamy side, the DT3 was more of the aim control side, stuff like that. But I'd say that, if fast gamers would probably find this very well appreciated. Nomad 4, again, something that you did not really see in the qualifiers, but it's also something that you won't expect to consistently see. Like, for previous years, like, although we tried to test slider aim very heavily in the qualifiers, you wouldn't see that round to round because it typically only ever occupies this slot. So, I'd say that you'll see this round, and you might see it in another place, but it's not going to feature the same prominence that it has in some years, or at least we pretended that it's faced that. But Nomad 5, so a bit of a this is our intro to the gimmick slot. So as you can see, we're kind of going with an OWC-ish format of last year, where it's like you have 5 no mods, and it's like and then your 5th no mod is no longer speed; it is a gimmick map. So this is kind of that, and Snow Mod 5 is a bit interesting in that it is focused, I'd say, more on the. This one kind of throws everything at you, and it's hard because it throws everything at you. So the mapper involved, Lince Cosmico, he's never really done a gimmick map. You've seen him on previous rhythm maps and prior Corsaces, but he paired up with Scub Domino to make it a little bit more gimmicky. So you'll see some stuff like some tricky overlap patterns, a lot of variance between sections. Song kind of helps that. And the settings are also kind of weird. It's like AR9 on this BPM, pretty dense, and then it's also leaning higher on the precision with the, I believe, CS5, CS4.5, can't remember which one. But so it's kind of one of those maps that it's just like, it's weird all around, and that's what makes it that. But as a result, it should be pretty accessible to most teams. We're just in round robin, so not trying to blast you guys with a full face of Corsace yet. Let's see, Hidden One. So this one's a more of a swingy type map. So it's swing, odd groupings, lower BPM streams, but has a bit of a density factor to it as well. Hidden 2, this is, it's VTuber AR8. Do I need to say any more? Like, I don't think I need to say any more. VTuber AR8, it's jumped, it's got some squares, it's got
That's
aim,
an abyssal
it's got
map,
AR8.
dude. That map is
It
actually
is.
just abyssal mode for every single player playing the map.
Yeah.
It's so rough.
I found
yeah.
it really surprising that Hidden 1 is lower star rating than Hidden 2. Same with 3 Mod 2 being
Hidden 2 is
under 6
aim.
stars.
Hidden 2 is aim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very weird because you usually expect that to not be the case, but here we are. If we're in the VTuber aim map era, the star rating is gonna be a little bit higher. So, anyways, then we got the Hard Rock 1. So this one was a bit of a the goal here was kind of like a fast aim sort of map, but it's like fast aim and it has like some flowier sections. It's just generally single tappable, but definitely on the far end of that, where it's like, some people will be alternating this because it is a little the fast side. Though I have found that a lot of players nowadays, 240, 250 BPM, even up to 260 single tapping for short chains, not a problem. So it's still more of an aim-oriented one. It is multi-skill in the sense that you're going on higher BPMs, so you will introduce some of it, some alternating, but potentially. But it's an aim map still. Hard Rock 2. This one is very typical on precision. I'd say it's pretty analogous to what you saw in qualifiers, where it's like it's got some light rhythm aspects, and then it's it's got some streams. This is your Cloyd type beat, I always like to call it. So kind of that. DT1, this is perhaps the most innocent map you will play in this entire tournament. It is satellite on Senya. It is just, it's not even 240 BPM. It's extremely comfortable, just like a fast game, like with a couple bursts here. Yeah. This is the most comfortable map in the tournament. So enjoy it while it lasts. Let's see, DT2, not too far behind in comfort, but a little bit harder because there's some doubles. But if you don't poo-poo out the doubles, then this one I'd say you'll find more accessible than a lot of DT2s that usually come around this difficulty range, just because BPM is like 225 or something. This is something that a lot of stream players that are just like breaking into speed territory can kind of play. And it's very flow aimy in that sense as well. So again, like chains aren't that long. If you know how to play the BPM, you should be good. DT3 is, the most alien map this round. This one, I'd say it's an Uberzolic map. So if you know the mapper, you already know, like, this is gonna be fucked.
It's DT4, but it's in the DT3 slot, right? Like,
yes,
it's 1/6 triples in this map, also at 195, which is hard.
This is demon.
There's a
This is
lot
demon.
going on. It's
Yeah.
difficult.
Yep. So we got this one as accessible as possible, but at the same time, it's swing and it's got 1/6 and it's got 1/4. So it's got your swing and your aim control triples, and there's stuff going on. this is your reading test. This is your reading. Like if No Mod 5 wasn't reading enough for you, and you can handle higher ARs, this is your reading map. So have fun. Kind of analogous to the what was in qualifiers, though I'd say more reading focus, less mechanics overall. So, and then you got your free mod 1, so custom song, banger breakcore. It's Fergus. Like you played like if you played maps kind of like this, it's like Xenobeat but slower, more accessible. So that's kind of what was going on there. I'd say probably again one of the most straightforward free mod ones, but you'll see more like this where this is your speed slot kind of, and you'll definitely one of the more accessible ones where it's bursts. It's kind of like old No Mod 5, like it's exactly what you'd expect there. Pretty straightforward. Free mod 2, this one's like your aim control stream pick and on low AR. So I'd say that it's a little bit more. It's one of the more accessible versions of it, but it's still like AR8 streams. So beware. And on Hard Rock, it is probably easier because that's how these tend to go. So and then tiebreaker, Dada tiebreaker, fast aim. It actually has more flow aim than you'd expect on a map like this. I talked about this a little in the showcase, and it's Avenged Sevenfold. I don't know, nothing else to say there. But yeah, so the other thing I'd like to mention on the pools is the map. All the pools this year were created with a different process than than most people are used to when it comes to custom maps, where we have a lot. The mappers themselves had a lot more freedom, and we kind of pooled around their decisions a lot more. So we were a lot more reactive on the pooling compared to prior years, where we said mappers do this. We're hoping that this leads to a more organic feeling pools. Since I know that was one of the larger concerns that people have mounted over the past couple of years of the pools feeling stiff, and it's like the map's not feeling worth playing. So working on that. This is how we're working on it. And I will also say that the pools only get better from here. So, yeah.
All right. I mean, I don't have a ton to add. We wanted to ask you about the pool structure. It's interesting. I think the tiebreaker is really interesting because it's not like a straightforward mechanics hybrid. It's not like the tech alt mechanics speed type of custom song tiebreaker that we've had a while back. So like, I guess my question is like, what's the process for choosing a song on that and kind of trying to make it as tiebreaker-esque as possible? Like, is there even an effort towards that? Because you said earlier that like you wanted to give the mappers a bit more freedom, not make the slots as slot focused as they usually are, and not force them into particular stuff. So what went on with that map? Because I think for me it's different from what I expected, and I think for a lot of players also it'll probably be a little bit different from what they were looking to see in that slot. Not necessarily for the worse, but just different.
Okay, two things then. One on the process, I can go a little bit more in depth, and then the other on this specific case. So let's see. On tiebreakers as a whole, if you had conversations with me, you've heard my vocal distaste for the way tiebreakers have gone. The combination, basically the combination of multi-skill and not speed gate, essentially have forced like three potential there's three directions like that I had like as a pooler to ask for mappers to make. And I'm like, okay, so we're rotating between this, but most of the time it's just going to fall on like a faster tech map or something. So that was kind of where I was. I was very frustrated with this when I was designing these pools. And part of what aggravated that, because that was all I could think of as a pooler, essentially having I pushed really hard against every tiebreaker being a custom song tiebreaker like it was last year, because custom songs, you come up with the specs and then you ask and you find an artist and ask them to make a song that would essentially fulfill those specs. So if you're out of ideas before you even ask that, you're just going to perpetuate the meta with your custom songs. So I'm like, all right, we cannot have every single tiebreaker this year be a custom song. So combine that with our process this year, where we basically pooled this kind of like you would pool normally, in the sense of when you're pooling normally, the strategy usually is you find your bangers, you find like the maps you really want in the pool, and then you start filling. And then after you have filled, you kind of like really start narrowing down. Okay, I need this specific type of map, so I'm gonna grind out the OSU search, grind out the like map folder. I'm just gonna find everything I can, like, and to find that map, get it really rigorously vetted, and all of that. So, we made a custom process that emulates that, where we have our essentially like our VIP mappers. Where we're like, hey guys, here's the slots we want, and here's with the difficulty ranges, just make a map. Go look for songs, come up with ideas, and then we will put whatever you come up with into a slot once we figure out that like the song is going to work for a tournament, pretty much. So we have a couple maps like that with their premium mappers, and then
Which ones are those in this pool? Also,
I'll get to that after, because it'll tie in very nicely here. But yeah, so we have those, and then we have other maps that are essentially, we have like, we call this the job board, where we essentially, the pooling team, we come up with specs for everything that we have made based off of the premium maps. So we came up with those. And then mappers are every mapper, like the 80 something mappers that we have for open this year, we're able to pick from that list and they were able to just map. So it's like, you guys got a couple weeks to make previews for these maps, and if we like your preview, we'll let you map it. So they were basically able to pick from the list and then map it, and then anything that didn't get filled in that way, we assigned, and or if we had a custom song, we assigned it, pretty much. So that was kind of our process this year. And we didn't think of it. We actually did not think about the tiebreakers. But then we noticed that people like Dada were interested in mapping the tiebreakers for as a premium mapper. So they were like, we want to do whatever we want. Hey, we have a tiebreak. We have these awesome songs for tiebreakers. So Dada came forth with 3 songs actually, and I thought that his tiebreaker one was the best, and his ideas were very fresh. And so Dada's was one of the Dada's map here for tiebreaker was one of the 3 self-directed maps, essentially. So he's like, he went from a song, he made a thing, and then we're like, all right, well, that's where it goes in the tiebreaker because it's long. So that's what came about for the process for that tiebreaker. The other maps like this were Fremont 2 and DT1. So it's like, we know Satellite loves Senya, so Senya goes in DT, just as God intended, right? Like, and then Fremont 2 was, Nightcore. We went through like 4 or 5 songs, and this was the one that sounded most interesting. He went to town. He loves AR8. So he went and did his thing. And yeah, so those are the 3, self-directed, like completely like from the ground. We pooled around them sort of maps. So
that's cool.
Sweet.
That's cool. It's a different process for sure from last year.
Yeah.
Shiba, do you have anything you want to add or any questions about the pooling? Because I think I'm good. I think we're about ready to wrap.
I can't lie to you. Harvey is such an insane genius on maps, and I'm kind of big dum dum. I have competent knowledge enough to be able to take decent notes in tournaments and whatnot, but mapping I'm not very experienced with. So I mean, the only thing I really have to say is great fucking job. You guys are killing it with how different it is and how fresh it is for players. People are going to have so much fun in these pools this tournament, and it's going to be a super exciting one, especially in terms of what we're going to see in the future. So yeah, no, great job, dude. I'm looking forward to seeing them play it and players' feedback. It's going to be they're going to be really good.
It's a fun pool to play. I like the Nomad 2. The Nomad 2 is really fun. Yeah, go play the pool if you haven't. We're just about ready to wrap here, so tune in to Corsace Open tomorrow. We have matches starting at, I think it's 11 UTC, and then a full block of matches from 13 UTC to 19 UTC tomorrow on Saturday. So tune in right here, twitch.tv/Corsace, for all of those matches throughout the weekend. We'll have more on Sunday as well. We got a lot of matches to go through for the group stage, and we'll be here for the next 4 weekends in a row with matches between all the teams that we've talked about. And we'll be here at Full Circle on every Friday to give a preview of the matches and what to expect and do some predictions like we were doing this time around. So yeah, We'll be back.
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much for being here with me. Thank you, Kevo, for streaming. Man was like on his phone away from computer, came in and streamed last minute. So thanks to him. And that's it for us. See you next week. See you tomorrow for the matches.
Goodbye, friends. See you tomorrow. Bye
See
bye.
y'all.